Good evening, Professor. As you know, I chose the topic fast fashion in China. The reason why I chose this particular topic because I myself find myself shopping at stores like Zara and H&M pretty frequently buying new clothes. I love the fact that I'm able to buy new clothes and they have different styles and also they're cheap. They're at a very low cost. However, one thing that I wasn't aware of is how harmful these clothes are to the environment. Um, and then in this case, I chose to focus on China. I focus on what fast fashion is actually doing to the environment in China and how it's taking over the environment. In my paper, I first start off by an introduction of fast fashion. I really didn't know what fast fashion was, so I gave a little brief breakdown on exactly what fast fashion was. I then discussed what fast fashion is doing to China. Um, Fast fashion is hurting our environment and it's hurting China's environment tremendously. With the water pollution, it's out of control, and textile industries contribute to it. Um, and it's becoming a great serious environmental issue. I also give a little history on China. I talk about um, how what China means to the world. It's known as the factory of the world. I go back a little bit and talk about what China was before the factory of the world and how it's changed. Um, because China is the factory of the world, it is suffering. The air and water is polluted from these factories, and from constantly creating products. I would just discuss the economic issues. I talk about China's cheap labor. Because of their cheap labor costs, China leads in the world with production and exports of textiles. Even though it sounds that China is getting business, the workers are suffering. You have these workers working long hours at a fast pace just to keep up with the fast fashion industry, and they're barely receiving any profit. Um, I then discuss the labor laws that the West has put in place. The West implemented laws to help with issues in China that regarding their labor laws. Um, nothing has really changed from that. China doesn't follow these. China aren't enforcing labor laws. Um, Another thing I talk about in my paper is the WPPCL law, which is the water pollution control law. This law tries to help resolve the water pollution in China. I talk about cancer being the number one cause in death in China, uh, which is kind of, I guess the resistance would be, that's the number one killer. Cancer is the number one killer in China. So because it's the number one killer, the government is stepping in to try to create laws and rules to try to stop, a continued death in China. Because of the water pollution. They can't even drink water in China. That's how dangerous and that's how much of a serious environmental issue this is. I finally break down some solutions to help with this serious environmental issue. I talk about the WPPCL. I talk about that. If we follow that, maybe that'll help. I talk about consumers being smarter and just what they buy. I talk about textile industries, and then I also talk about retailers. Knowing who's making these clothes and knowing what these textiles factories are doing with the water waste. My opinion is that we need to come up with a solution, a serious solution, and needs to be followed to help China. I mean, I gave a list of solutions, but I don't know how effective they will be, but something's got to give. These people are dying, and they're really seriously affected by China, by the water pollution. So I think it's dangerous. I think that China is in serious need of help, and something needs to be done fast. Thank you.